evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the TASL Fantasy Football Chat podcast. It is Wednesday, the 28th of October, and this is episode 6 in Bamford Strikes the Right Note. Rob, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to be back.
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm all right. You know, I'm living the wildcard dream. It didn't go quite as well as I'd have hoped. But it's done now, and there's no more stress until the new year.
Yeah. No, the video was excellent. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to go and watch the video. But
head over to our YouTube.
Everyone raises the bar. Yeah.
Head over to our YouTube channel and check out my wildcard video for this season. Rob's are usually very entertaining, and the fact he just uses the face change app to put his face into some young female pop star, and then we assume that he's played his wildcard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the least amount of effort I can possibly put in and come up with a video, because I think doing it a spirit thing. Because a few people commented that I just didn't bother. So I'm it's a step, it's baby steps.
It is, and we appreciate that. So thank you. And I mean, Rob, you had a very good week. I mean, before we talk about how well my wild card or how average my wild card went, you came out with 69 points, with obviously a -4 because you had a couple of transfers, but
yeah.
Obviously, you've got the main man in your team, who we've named the episode after today, Mr. Patrick Bamford, bagging you 17 points. And you were just telling me before we came online, you were going to boot him for Harry Kane. Just before.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So I what happened is I made two changes in total. So I brought Calvert-Lewin in for Jimenez, which was a genius idea because Calvert-Lewin didn't be blanked completely. And I brought Sterling in for James Rodriguez because obviously he was injured.
So another ghost injury.
But even though I knew this was all to do with the Van Dijk injury and I knew it was just a ruse, I still went ahead and did it. I thought, I can't risk it.
You've really you really conspired over a theory for this one, haven't you, Rob? You're convinced that there was more to it.
Oh, he's just not letting it go. I think Ancelotti and the way he's reacted to the two assaults on the Liverpool players the week before. But he's just not reacted particularly well, and even the sending off for Luka Dean, which we'll talk about later on, he's even said that's related to Jordan Pickford, and it's just ridiculous, isn't it? And
did Pickford push him into the foul or something? I wouldn't put it past Pickford to turn up halfway up the pitch and get involved.
His arms can't reach
in one of his teammates getting sent off.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous thing to say, wasn't it? I mean, I've just watched the video again of the Luka Dean one, and it's clearly it is a foul.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying, Patrick Bamford, I was just about to pull him out and put Kane in. I thought, I'll go all in and then make a -8, but I just left him, and he really repaid. He got 3 goals. So
and I mean, it's really unbelievable because I mean, let's go straight into it maybe, and I'll touch on my completely average wild card in a bit. But I mean, that nobody I think was saying that Leeds were going to turn Villa over in that matter based on performances so far this season, particularly when they had such an informed defence, and in particular our big heartthrob Emi Martinez.
Yeah, no, it was a real surprise. But then we talk about Bamford, and hasn't had a prolific career up until now. It's been bumbling along. He went from Chelsea, I think it was Middlesbrough. He's been at MK Dons. He's been at a few different clubs, and Bielsa really likes him. I think I can remember us talking about this a few episodes back, which we said it wasn't always goals that he brings; it was his link-up play, it was his general teamwork. But obviously, he's added goals to this now. And in terms of FPL, it's a no-brainer in terms of the value. if he keeps putting in one every couple of games.
I'm sure I mentioned the other week that he was the current top value player in terms of points per million, and I don't think that's changed. To be honest, I haven't looked that up, but I mean,
if anything,
yeah, you would think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just going back to what you said there. I mean, his career statistics. I mean, we were touching on this before we went live, and his most prolific season, you have to go back to when he was on loan at MK Dons in League One in the 2013-14 season, where he bagged 17 goals in 30 appearances, including a couple of goals in the Cup. But other than that, I mean, he had a couple of average seasons at Middlesbrough, and even last year, he only bagged, and I say only because look, if your striker's scoring 16 league goals in a season, it's not the worst thing in the world. But he scored 16 goals in 45 championship games, and that was for a title-winning team. And obviously, Eddie Nketiah went over to Leeds last year, and I think a lot of Arsenal fans, and also people in the club, are expecting Nketiah to get a lot of game time, and yeah, he obviously prefers Bamford, like you say, and yeah, he is really doing the business now. I mean, he's 6-6 in the league, and he's made history in the sense that he's the first Leeds player to score in the first 3 away games of the season since the 1937-38 season. So it's very interesting. It's an excellent stat, isn't it? I stole that from a very posh newspaper. But what I also looked a bit into Bamford and his background, and people may think, well, I think if you look at it on its own, the title of our show is quite a boring one tonight, in Bamford Strikes the Right Note. But the reason we've called it this is because, according to Wikipedia, which, as everyone listening will know, is absolutely never wrong and is 100% factual, Bamford had quite a privileged upbringing, and not only can he speak multiple languages, but he can also play the guitar, the piano, the violin, and the saxophone. So, I mean, you cannot fail to be impressed with the young man.
And a Premier League footballer to boot.
And exactly, you can't argue with that. So, I mean, well done to Leeds, and well done to everybody who kept faith in Patrick Bamford, because I, for one, certainly wasn't one of those. I hit up my wild card, and as the weekend went on, I felt like I was doing quite well, to be honest. I mean, aside from Calvert-Lewin, I had Kane and Son, who gave me returns. I had Ings, obviously. I had young Foden, who came off the bench to rescue a point for City, and I captained
He's
Mane.
churning out the points, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think the value in him, and with the injuries they've just got to keep playing him. I think he's becoming a really key player for them, but it was my defense that let me down. And, I ended up with a point score of 58. And, I've gone up in the rankings. I think I'm up to 1.4 mil overall now. And, a late goal in the Wolves and the Brighton game, cost me another probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 points, depending on how the bonuses would have gone. So it's a disappointing one, but I look at my team, I still think it's quite strong. And I don't think I'm going to, pending any injuries that happen tonight and tomorrow and anything that comes up from training, I don't actually think I'm going to go with any transfers for the first time in this season, which will be quite nice. I mean, you'd like to think that after playing your wild card that you've set yourself up for a little while. But I mean, it never works like that all the time, does it? It's always one of those where...
Well, you see, I've never had I was going to say I've never had a situation where I played a wild card and it's worked that particular week. It very rarely works for me. But you said there about those 2 late goals. I had the opposite. Those 2 late goals saved me because I went into the final a couple of games.
Oh, in your head-to-head game now?
Yeah, in the head-to-head games with Phil at the time. So my defence all scored 2s, and Sterling failed to make up for me putting him in there instead of Rodriguez. Lewin got a 1. I was saved by Son, essentially. I mean, his goal and his his score is what dragged me and saved and made me win the head-to-head, and really got a big bulk of points in Bamford. So I was quite lucky. I think it's so fine with these things, isn't it? Especially on the head-to-heads.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason sometimes.
No, you just got to get lucky on the week. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, you can't argue. I felt like I done all right, but let's see how we get on now in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Another two teams we really need to see how they get on in the next few weeks are West Ham and Man City. And I mean, we've talked a lot about West Ham and their fixtures. I believe they're playing you guys next, aren't they? Is it Liverpool that they've got coming up?
Yeah,
next?
they got Liverpool.
And I mean,
Yeah,
it's probably a really good time to play Liverpool. I mean, it's going to be off the back of, they've earned a point against Man City, and it possibly could have been more. It possibly could have been less, but I think they were value for the point. And obviously Liverpool, Fabinho's picked up another injury. I believe it's his hamstring. So you'd like to think that's going to be a couple of weeks at least. But I mean, West Ham, we said they were going to pick up points, and they have. Kufal, I don't know exactly how you say his name, but he picked up, not only did he pick up an assist, he picked up 3 bonus points as well. He was on our transfer watch list, Rob, so we picked a good one there. He was,
yeah.
Antonio scored and then picked up a knock. It'll be interesting to see, because I think he will cause the Liverpool defence some trouble. But Liverpool,
direct and quick, isn't he?
Sorry, Liverpool, yeah. But I mean, Manchester City as well. I mean, we've berated this Man City, particularly myself, have berated this Man City team so far this season, and they're still not showing a lot. I think they failed to add to their squad. And, are we seeing the rewards now, or are they going to kick into gear and go on a big run over the next few weeks? I mean, they've got Sheffield United in their next game, who had a good, who had an unlucky result against Liverpool, you could say. But certainly showed improvement.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been very good since the start of the season, and it'd be interesting to see whether Guardiola lasts. I think that they need to go on a run of victories, don't they? I mean, they're currently 13th on 8 points with a game in hand, so they really haven't had a great start to this season with a couple of draws and a loss, and I know you think that Guardiola's he doesn't get held to account, does he? You don't.
No.
You don't think that he's held to account, and it's true. I think that he's in his last season of his contract as well. I wonder if they're eyeing up a replacement, maybe Pochettino.
Is he really? Has he not got? Has he just got this year left,
or
has he got one more after this one?
I thought it was his final year. That's what I was reading the other day. So that'd be interesting to see if he's going to see that out, go or add for an extension. But especially after the way that they've been playing, which hasn't been particularly convincing, given all the money he spent as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and we'll have to keep an eye on both these teams. I think Foden is definitely value in the Man City side.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the likes of Antonio, when fit, and Kuval are definitely value amongst those West Ham players, so they should definitely be in a minimum of people's watch list. Another person that I think potentially needs to start coming out of the watch list and into people's starting teams is potentially Wilfried Zaha.
Yes, yeah.
They had an excellent result. I mean, albeit it was against Fulham, who just looked doomed still. But they've got a decent run of. Well, they do. Let's be honest.
They do, yeah. They've put up the white flag already, haven't they? They're done for.
They have indeed. I mean, Crystal Palace, though, if you look at their next 5 fixtures, they've got Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, Newcastle, West Brom. And I think, they're all the kind of team that Wilfried Zaha could potentially profit against. And he does seem to be the kind of player that goes in fits and bursts. And so I think there's definitely some value in Wilfried Zaha. Obviously, a goal, an assist, 3 bonus points. You can't argue with that.
He seems to be doing it. He seems to be doing it every week at the moment. The last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been doing something, whether it be an assist or a goal. Yeah. So because he's another one that I've put on my watch list.
I think because he had quite a poor season last year.
Yeah.
after he didn't get the well-touted move out of the club. You know, it makes you wonder whether he's just trying to play for a move in January or at the end of the season, or whether he's just one of those kind of players where you don't really know what's going on with them and he just comes in and out of form. You know, it's just one of those.
Yeah, I don't know how long he's got left on his contract. So when we were talking about Guardiola, it is next year his contract runs out.
Yeah.
And they're talking of going to Barcelona. So it'd be interesting to see if Zaha's something similar, where he's playing now at the end of his contract and trying to get a decent move to another club. But they were talking, saying his age.
Yeah, well,
they were saying this will be his last chance.
Not really, is it? What is he? 28. You know, he's it's a funny one. I don't really understand. Well, we kind of talked about it in the past, this whole thing about players' ages and you know, or they're 27, 28, that's it now. One big contract and they'll be off to a retirement home somewhere. And it's like, really? I mean, really?
Yeah.
But,
no, it's 2023. I've just looked it up. So he's got a couple of years left.
Yeah, he's
so
got a while left. Yeah, he signed that long-term one a couple of years ago, didn't he? Yeah. But we also had, I mean, talk about, you know, how much money it's costing people to watch some of these games on box office. You could have paid me to sit through the Manchester United Chelsea game because it was not a great game. There was no real attacking intent, and I think it was one of those scenarios where you could see it was almost both teams were in a position where they couldn't lose, or they didn't, you know, they really didn't want to lose, and that, you know, they felt like they could both get away with that draw, which they achieved. But I mean, will Man United and Chelsea fans take heart at those clean sheets, or will they look at it as a missed opportunity, do you think?
Well, starting with Manchester United, the other week, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said his season starts next week. And he didn't. They were at home. They were at home. I think that it was a very poor showing from them. And the same with Chelsea. I mean, you said there that fixture was drudgery. It's the only fixture. So most games and fixtures I can look at and think, oh, I wouldn't mind that side to win. This one, if there was a way for both of them to lose, I'd be happy. It's one of the very few fixtures, right?
Do me a favour and get off the fence, will you, Rob?
Yeah, if there was a way for both teams to lose, that would make me happy. I just can't stand either of them. But going back to the actual game itself, I mean, the performances. I mean, Werner blanked again, didn't he? He had a couple of great goals in the previous game, which got him off the mark, but he didn't really show up. And I think I'd be disappointed if I was either fan, to be honest with you. Disappointed I was a fan of either club. Never mind anything else, but we'll see how they pan out in the next couple of games. Maybe next weekend the season will start. So
you never know. And I mean, talking of disappointed fans, I mean, one group of fans you wouldn't have thought to say would come away from the result disappointed is Sheffield United, and obviously they came away disappointed, and they came away with no points from Anfield. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, I was lucky enough to captain Mane, and I managed to get I managed to get a few points from the Mane assists. But they were, I'd say they were quite fortunate, Liverpool, to come away with the 3 points. Do you think that's fair, or do you think?
No, I think that they would look nervous. I think they were still settling down. I think they were wondering how it was going to pan out with Van Dijk and with Fabinho going at the back. And he did a good job. And I think they helped with having Alisson back. I think that was a real bonus.
Yeah.
But we still looked a little bit disjointed. We went 1-0 down, but they clawed their way back. And the goals they got were good goals. Jota as well is proving to be a really good signing. He's
so far he is, that's for sure. I mean, he's scoring goals, and that's what they need if you're going to play in that front three, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that he's going to be a real kind of asset to the team. But I wonder if because they had a game in midweek in the Champions League, and again looked a bit disjointed. They're not quite there where they should be, but they're still winning. So the game against West Ham on the weekend is going to be an important one, because West Ham are they're a tough side, as it were. Now
you never know what you're going to get with them, do you?
No, you don't. No, unfortunately, you don't. But in terms of the players that I've got Salah in, so he blanked. He had one of his
fraud
games where he didn't do anything at all. So I was thinking of you when I was watching him, thinking, I feel I'll be happy with that. He's not scored. But the Robertson, look, this is the other conundrum, is you've got Robertson there, 7.2 million. And he's not having a particularly consistent. No defenders are having a particularly consistent season. It's what we've said a few weeks ago. Is it worth having an expensive defender in there? Is it worth moving that money up the field where you're going to get more points?
Yeah, I think it
like
could
Trent
be.
Alexander-Arnold. I wonder what the ownership of Alexander-Arnold, that must have dropped.
Yeah, well, I think he has dropped in value. I can have a quick look now, but yeah, I mean, like you say, we touched on this before, and it's probably. Oh no, he won't come under Trent, but yeah. So I mean, he's already dropped to 7.4. And he's dropping fast. I mean, his ownership is still at 34.2%, but ultimately, the higher your ownership, when people start shipping him out, the quicker the price is going to drop. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely think that is one to watch. And from Robertson, he's at 7.1, not 7.2, but his ownership is a lot less. And I think people still feel the need to kind of have that attacking option in defense, and I still think there's a value for the price if you compare it to the midfielders. It's similar, and I still think people may be snapping up Robertson at 7.1, particularly over Trent, and particularly with the fact Robertson seems to be in better form.
He is in better form. It's just that on the games where he doesn't get his attacking returns, he only comes up with a 2 because we're conceding goals every game. I don't think we've had a clean sheet for a while, so that's quite worrying. But defensively, it's just been a horror show, and we talked about that last week.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we should just say about the Sheffield United penalty. For me, never a penalty. I don't even. I don't feel like it was inside the box. I mean, you can debate all day long whether that's a foul or not. I think it probably was, but I don't think it was in the box where the foul was committed. So that was a bit of a strange one as well, given the VAR situation.
It wasn't a penalty. I think that Ancelotti's brother's been on the VAR.
All right. Let's move on. Okay, so one of the, I guess you could call it, surprise results of the weekend. Then on the Sunday, we had Southampton beating Everton 2-0. And Southampton looked really good. Our Everton kind of realised, was it a bit of a reality check for them? Obviously Calvert-Lewin had a bit of a tough game. I think he got booked with frustration. Obviously after the red card for Luca Dean, they never were going to find their way back into it. But is it a case that they were perhaps missing Seamus Coleman and Richarlison? Or do we just need to give credit to Southampton, who played really well? Danny Ings is in excellent form. Ward-Prowse and Che Adams seem to be hitting form at the right time. Do we just give credit to Southampton and say they were well beaten?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they had a very difficult start to the season. And I think they've gradually just been improving game on game. And I think that the game against Everton now, they seem very settled where they're playing. Hasselhutel, I think, has done a really good job. He's even been mentioned in the same breath as Manchester United as their possible coach. I don't know if you saw that in the week, but he's been mentioned as a replacement for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Well, to be honest, people know how I feel about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think anybody's an upgrade on him, to be complete and frank. But
his season starts next week, so they got to judge him next week onwards.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on now. They're away at Newcastle next, and then they have Man United at home, Fulham away, Leeds home, Burnley away. So I think you're going to really, really see what kind of longevity Calvert-Lewin has coming up in these next few games. That'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on, because I mean, even with how much his price has raised, I mean, he started the season off at 7 million and he's already up to 7.7 with an ownership of 56.6. So I mean, you know, he's still value at 7.7 if he's going to be bagging you. You know, I mean, that was the first game where he's failed to score. You know, he's scored 7 in 6, and you know, it's definitely going to be one to keep an eye out now for the next few games, I feel. But I think he's had such a positive start that even if he kind of misses the odd game or so now in terms of having a goal scoring return, then you know, people will probably still stick with him.
Yeah, I think I've just put him in. So I had him in last week, which is the first week. I'm going to have to stick with him now, because the minute I move him out, it's going to get into that game of I put him in, he fails, I take him out, he scores. So you're just going to have to stick with him. But he's of that value where I can keep with him, because I'm not relying on that money that's in him for the rest of the squad. Because I've got about 4.5 million spare at the moment.
Right.
I can spread around the rest of the team. But I'm just going to stick with him and see how he goes for the next few games.
Fair.
So which I think that the other thing I was going to say, that from the games on the weekend, actually, we've talked previously about the values changing, is Anthony Martial being sent off, which was a really, you know, what has happened to him in terms of centre forwards. He's just, something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, he's not having a great time of it this season. Obviously, he missed the Chelsea game, and he's going to be missing a couple more, I guess, now. But it gives, I guess, others the chance to step in there now, and we'll have to, you know, that's another one to watch, because at the moment Marcus Rashford seems to be hitting a little bit of form.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's his time to become the main man. So yeah, I mean, talking of main men, there's only one main man for Leicester City, and that's your man Jamie Vardy, crashing the better than Drogba, crashing the Arsenal Partey. Yeah, it was obviously, you know, I'm glad I didn't pay the £15 for it, first and foremost. And secondly, what a hugely disappointing result for Arsenal. But I think it just went to show why they were going after Hassam Aouar as well. I mean, they're lacking creativity in the midfield, and as soon as young Saka went off, who was probably, you know, he's the player that gets into those attacking positions and has the bravery to kind of play those balls through. We didn't look like we were going to score, and it was almost Arsenal of old. And you know, Louise went off injured, and our old friend Mustafi came on, and I don't know where he was for the goal, but you know, the new winger for Leicester, he came on and played the perfect pass, and Jamie Vardy couldn't miss it. I mean, Jamie Vardy loves score. I mean, talking of Drogba, I don't know who Arsenal fans hate the sight of more, Didier Drogba or Jamie Vardy, because both score goals for fun against us. And I mean, a fantastic result for Leicester. They've gone and achieved exactly what Brendan Rodgers set out to do. You know, Arsenal couldn't break them down. And they're going to need to find some new ideas, Arsenal, because although in actual fact they didn't look like conceding for the majority of the game, they're not scoring a lot of goals at the minute, and that's a bit of a worry. For me, you know, I need
to... What's happened to Aubameyang?
Well, I think we need to see him through the middle a little bit more, because Lacazette is not playing well. And
he's blanked every week, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he scored against Fulham, I think, first game of the season, and that's been it, I believe. I mean, for me, we need to see Aubameyang through the middle, and we need to see Pepe give him more a chance, because the thing is with Pepe, he gets a lot of stick, and he's one of those players where, although he might give it away a few times, he also has the ability to create something out of nothing. And when you're not scoring a lot of goals or creating a lot of chances, that's the kind of player you need in the team. And I've seen a lot of cynical people say, oh, you know, if only they had a creative player at the club where, you know, perhaps an ex-Real Madrid World Cup winner who loves to play in a number 10 role and is born to assist. And, I get why people are saying it, but Mesut Ozil now isn't the answer. Mesut Ozil of 10 years ago would be absolutely fantastic, but that's the problem with Mesut Ozil now, is that he's not the player he used to be. And for whatever reason that is, it doesn't really matter. But there's no point having him in the team, even if you're paying him that amount of money, if he's not producing the goods and it affects the rest of your game plan. So I get it. But equally, is it going to be a painful season for Arsenal now, where we have to just see his contract out so we can spend that on somebody new next summer? Or is Arteta going to find the solution? I mean, take nothing away from Leicester, because they've gone and done exactly what was intended, and Schmeichel seems to be getting better and better as the years go by. But I mean, Arsenal at home should be scoring goals against any team, in my view. So I don't know. We need to watch that one and see how they get on. But an extremely disappointing result for Arsenal. Not a lot more to say about that one, unfortunately. I would rather move on. From an FPL point of view, I think there'll have been quite a few managers disappointed at late goals at Wolves and Brighton. Because they looked like it was going to be clean sheets for your Wolves defenders and clean sheets for your Brighton defenders, but that wasn't to be. And, not a lot of goals this week, considering how it's been, and the fact we've talked about it the last few episodes where we've been saying about the goals and stuff. But even the Spurs game at the end, it took... it was a good goal, but it wound me up. Whoever was on commentary, did you see the Heung-min Son?
No, I didn't.
So it was a corner flicked on by Harry Kane, and then Son was in the right place at the right time, and he headed it in very well. It was a good finish. But one of the co-commentator, and forgive me because I cannot remember who it was, tried to claim that they'd been working on it on the training pitch. And that even to the point where Son adapted and looped the header into the right part of the goal. And I was just thinking, that is absolute nonsense. It's a corner. Harry Kane's flicked it on anywhere, and Son was in the right place at the right time. And I know I sound like a bitter Arsenal fan, and let's be honest, I am. But it was you don't work on that on the training pitch. I'm sorry.
I think what you can work on is positioning. You can work on positioning out at any given corner and attempt. So you get that. But to say that he headed it into I don't really buy that. I mean, we talked before we came on here about Son and whether he's underrated or overrated. And it could be so. He is just improved. He's always been a fantastic player, but he's just reached another level, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think this season under Mourinho, I wonder if there's I don't watch Tottenham, so I don't know if they've changed their style or the way the patterns of play have changed, but I just wonder if Son has just become more of a focus. He's more involved. He's been given more freedom. Dele Alli's nowhere to be seen. He's no longer in the side.
Yeah,
and so I just wonder, it is, and I just wonder if he's freed Son up with the position he's in, whether that's changed. But again, I don't watch them all the time, so I don't know. But his performances are saying that he is more central, he's more pivotal to the team.
Absolutely. And, as much as it pains me to see it, they seem to be pulling through these games. But Burnley were not bad, in all honesty. I know we tipped them, or I certainly did last week, to be nailed on for relegation, but they didn't actually look that bad against Spurs. So we'll have to see whether they're able to pick some points up in the coming weeks. Okay, I think we are pretty much there, Rob. Couple of little interesting points to pick up on from the general world of football, I guess. We had one of your favourite footballers ever, Rob, Karim Benzema, who seemed to be filmed making quite a interesting comment about his teammate Vinicius, where he kind of intimates to Bernard Mendy not to pass to him because he's playing, the translation, obviously there could be some stuff lost in translation.
No,
I mean, he basically said, don't pass to him, he's not playing for us. Whether that translates to he's having a mare, But the stats said that Benzema didn't pass to him once in the second half. So he obviously believed it. An interesting one. It'll be interesting. I mean, he's got previous Karim Benzema, and let's not go into anything. I mean, I don't want this podcast to become libelous all of a sudden. But
all you have to do is Google Karim Benzema court cases, and there's quite a few knocking around.
Pour yourself a nice cup of coffee, put yourself half an hour to an hour aside, and Google Karim Benzema.
You know, we're all human, aren't we? And we all make mistakes, like supporting people like Man Utd or Chelsea or that kind of thing. And then you also make mistakes in life generally, don't you? Like you make the odd comment sometimes, you get caught out. He is a consistently. So all you have to do is go online and Google Karim Benzema. I mean, the first one that comes out, you know, it's the kind of thing you'd have people outside your house with pitchforks and, to run him out of town. You'd be, and it just goes from there. So yes, you know my views on Karim Benzema.
Yeah, I guess let's move on.
Still at Madrid?
Let's move on before you get too angry, Rob. This is how I feel. I've seen the language you use about Karim Benzema in our WhatsApp chat, and I wouldn't want to push you any further. I feel like I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
All right.
I want to finish up today with arguably one of the greatest ever players of the game, Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo. And despite beating numerous defenders in his career, he just can't seem to shake the coronavirus after having yet another positive test. He is missing he's missing the game tonight against his arch nemesis, Lionel Messi. A very strange one. And obviously he came out with the fact he was very upset with the testing system and people calling it BS on a social media platform. And I think he's wisely been advised to, remove that comment. I mean, he's obviously asymptomatic, but this is obviously the second test that's come back positive for him now. I did enjoy your comment before when he got diagnosed the first time round, saying how, it happened on international duty, so Wolves are buggered now.
Yeah, well, they are, aren't they? I mean, most of the players there were actually surrounded by him. But of course, Liverpool then signed Jota, didn't they? So, I didn't realise that I knew he was missing the Barcelona game, but I didn't realise it was because of COVID. And we caught it a while ago, didn't he? It was a couple of weeks ago. So, that's how are Juventus, Juve doing in the league? I know AC Milan are top. I wonder if
I'll be honest with you, Rob, I have no idea right now. I usually start following the foreign leagues kind of after January kind of time, just to see how it's all going. But
I just wonder if that had something to do with it, whether it was the Italian, whether he thinks that he's being nobbled because of,
well, they're very strict over there. I know, like Aaron Ramsey missed one of the Wales games during the international break because they had an extended period of quarantine. But rightly so. I mean, they've been ravaged by the disease over there, and so all precautions rightly need to be taken, I think.
Is Ramsey still in the?
Yeah, I think he's from what I remember seeing, he's started to get a few more games under Pirlo. I don't know whether he's playing tonight, but he started to get a few more games under Pirlo, and hopefully, he can make a bit of a name for himself. So we'll have to, make a bit of a name for himself is a bit harsh. I mean, he's already done that. Let's be honest. But let's hope he does well.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, I think we've made it. Good chat tonight. So thank you for that. And thank you all for listening, if indeed you still are. I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Obviously, hit us up on Twitter. If you have enjoyed it, please feel free to hit the like button, share it amongst all of your salty FPL friends and family. And we'll be back same time next week. Same kind of stuff. We hope to see you then.
Okay.
All right, Rob. Nice one, mate. See you later.